We are all together again, friends, for the next episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Nicole is the mother of a 13-year-old type 1, and she feels anxious and bad about diabetes. Nicole is overwhelmed, and I'm going to talk to her today about it. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. I know that Facebook has a bad reputation, but please give the private Facebook group for the Juicebox Podcast a healthy once-over. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. Don't forget to save 40% off of your entire order at CozyEarth.com. All you have to do is use the offer code JUICEBOX at checkout. That's JUICEBOX at checkout to save 40% at CozyEarth.com. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. drinkag1.com/juicebox. Don't forget, if you're a U.S. resident who has type 1 or is the caregiver of someone with type 1, visit t1dexchange.org/juicebox right now and complete that survey. US Med is sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast, and we've been getting our diabetes supplies from US Med for years. You can as well. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Use the link or the number, get your free benefits check, and get started today with US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Today's episode is sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes, a company that's addressing hyperglycemia head-on, a topic that often gets overshadowed by the focus on hypoglycemia. Learn more at medtronicdiabetes.com/hyper.
I'm Nicole. I'm 36, and I have 3 daughters. 2 of them are from my current marriage, my younger 2. And then my oldest daughter is from my first marriage, and she's my type 1. So I am her primary care provider. And she's 13.
Mm-hmm.
She was diagnosed almost 2 years ago, exactly. So at 11.
Okay. The other 2 girls are no autoimmune at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Their dad, my current husband, has ankylosing spondylitis.
Oh.
And that goes through the males in his family. I know he's got at least 2 cousins that have that, but they're males. So we're hoping we're in the clear for that.
Nicole, do you have like a tattoo on your belly that says now accepting autoimmune suitors?
No.
Did your ex have anything?
I think his grandpa had neuropathy later in life, but really I don't know that
Sure.
there was anything in that family. The type 1 definitely comes from my family. And we can get into that as deep as you want to get, but
Well, tell me now.
well, it's 4 generations deep. And I don't want to be deceiving because I don't know if that's like, it's not a direct 4 generation thing.
What do you
My
mean?
grandma had type 1.
Right.
I have aunts that are type 1, I have cousins that are type 1. And then my daughter, she's the first great grandchild in this line to get it.
And do you have any autoimmune?
I don't know of anything. I did try on that on myself just because I wanted to know if I had, I don't know. I don't have anything.
Okay.
No, nothing.
Well, it's interesting that you're like, I don't know what the connection is here, that you're steeped in D over there. Like the diabetes is every which way.
It is.
Yeah. No kidding. Gosh. Well, I wouldn't be surprised by it. I'm interested though to see, I'm sorry that I'm speaking about your life like it's a science experiment, but I'm interested to see if the other 2 girls have any kind of implications. Are they younger right now?
Me too. And it is on my mind constantly.
Yeah.
I actually just tested the blood sugar of my youngest daughter 2 days ago because she was acting funny. And so I am definitely the type of person that is going to do a try on that because I got to know or else I'll just lose my mind.
Yeah.
But The youngest is 4. The other one's 8. I'm just waiting for a good time to do it. I did the at-home test on myself, and it was kind of hard to get that much blood out of myself. And so I don't want it to be too traumatic for them. But I think in the next year, working with the pediatrician or calling in a blood draw, I'm going to get them tested because I want to know.
Yeah. When you get the at-home kits, listen, I'm all for testing. I think it's a good thing to do. But when you get the at-home kits and the phrase milking is involved when it's talking about getting blood out of your finger, you're like, oh, what am I getting involved in here? So I would go to a lab and get it done if it was me.
I think that's where I'm going to go. It's just scheduling it and getting it all lined up. And
I understand.
Not fun, but I need to get it done for my sanity.
We'll go back. I was just going to say, let's go back to your sanity. What do you mean you think about it all of the time?
Well, I don't want to get emotional, and I knew I was going to, because I do. This has taken over my life, and I think there's a lot of people that listen to your show that feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Just, you're going to make me cry, which is fine, but just know if I get quiet, then I'm wiping tears away. But what do you mean it's taken over your life?
So I'm her primary care person.
Mm-hmm.
She's 13, so she's taken over some of it on her own. She has a different dad. So she's in her household most of the time. Occasionally she'll go over to his house, and the management over there is very different and not in a great way. My husband, he's supportive, but he was never really trained to take care of her because with the diagnosis, they just limited how many people could do it. So he's pretty hands off too in the home. So I just feel kind of alone, if you will, in this. I have a support system, but when it comes to the nitty gritty of dosing and watching, even just monitoring, it's heavy. It's a lot. So when I say it's taken over my life, I think it's just because I'm the person that's been available to take care of her.
Yeah.
So it's all on me.
Yeah. Nicole, I got sick last night out of nowhere. People who listen know I don't get sick often, but when I do, it hits me fast. And I was actually on the phone last night with Isabel talking about the possibility of a Juicebox cruise, which I think is a thing that's actually going to happen. And
stop. I saw it on Facebook, and I don't get on Facebook very often, and I'm so hoping that I can go.
Oh, I actually think listen, I'm hoping I can figure it out, but I actually think it's going to happen. And then, anyway, between you and I, don't go out in the world and say this yet because I'm still trying to figure it all out. But I mean, I put up a Facebook post that got 500 responses. So I figured, I mean, a lot of them won't end up doing it, but geez, what if a portion of them did? That'd be pretty great, you know?
It would be amazing.
I'm working with a coordinator right now to try to figure out a time in June of 2025 when that'll happen. I guess I should say this. I have not planned for this, but because you and I are talking about it, and this will go into the podcast eventually, if you go to juiceboxpodcast.com/juicecruise, and there's actually a website there, you can come with us. But at the moment, that website doesn't exist, but it will by the time this comes out, I guess.
Well, I'll be watching because I love cruises, and that would be so great for me and my daughter.
Just to meet other people, right? And to chill out a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And just really, that's why I love your show so much, and kind of why I wanted to come on is just, like I said, I have a support crew, but just not really to do much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And the people that listen to the show understand that, because there's a way to manage your diabetes and be a caregiver, or there's a way just to live. And that's kind of how it is at her dad's house. Is she doesn't die, but that's different. I call it the juice box way.
I'm going to ask you a question about that.
I like to manage her the juice box way.
Yeah, give me a second. I'm going to say something, and I'll ask you about that. And now we're going to hear from Medtronic champion, Terry. How long have you had diabetes?
June of 2025, it'll be 50 years. I'm very much involved in the diabetic community in a lot of areas, and I helped start the walk here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
When you were first diagnosed, what was management like?
I started out on beef pork insulin, and I tell people jokingly that I used to smell like a bacon cheeseburger.
Tell me about the impact of Medtronic technology.
Finger stick is only a point in time. And that first 20 years for me was extremely difficult because I had high blood sugars all over the place. The CGM to me was the lifesaver.
Prolonged hyperglycemia can lead to serious health problems and long-term complications. Early and consistent management of hyperglycemia is critical. Learn more at medtronicdiabetes.com/hyper. So I said I got sick last night because it overwhelmed me. I was on the phone with Isabel and I was like, I got to get off the phone. I'm dizzy. I felt bad even the way I said it. I'm like, I got to go. And I got off the phone and I went and sat down next to my wife and I was like, are my hands shaking? And she's like, yeah. And I said, I don't feel right. I'm like, I was outside talking to her. Like I was cleaning up and doing things. And I said, I took a step forward outside and I went backwards. And I was like, and my head's swimming and my hands are shaking and I'm really hungry. This feels like what people discuss when they say their blood sugar's low. But I mean, I ate something today, no differently than any other day. I'm like, that would be weird. But I sat down and basically took like a fistful of crackers. I over salted them and I ate because I was like, I felt like I needed salt. I took in a bunch of salt and these crackers and I felt a little better. And then my stomach kind of turned over and I was like, man, what is happening? But anyway, I'm still a little woozy this morning. Like my head's a little floaty. And you said I'm alone. And I almost started to cry. So I think it's because I don't feel well. You have me at an advantage today. Nicole, you're going to this is basically like two ladies who are getting ready to have their period talking. And because I'm very unstable today. And I don't mean to say women are unstable. Oh my God, here come you're a misogynist reviews. But you know what I mean. I feel overwhelmed with hormones at the moment. Okay.
I'm unstable. There's no doubt about that.
There you go, Nicole. Thank you for sticking up with me, with the woke ladies who are going to yell at me later. And by the way, I don't mind woke. It's cool. But you don't have to leave a review every time you don't like something I say. It's a podcast,
you're right. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, cruise by. Go, you know what? He might be kidding. I'm a little woozy today, so I'm going to ask you these questions, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to cry while we're doing it. So just be clear.
Well, then that means I'm going to cry too.
I'm
because
so sorry.
I cry when other people cry.
Oh, perfect.
For no reason. Go for it. What do we got here?
We're a worse match than you and your first husband. All right. So,
good one.
Thank you. Because by the way, the thing you've said so far that's the funniest is you called your husband now your current husband, which in my mind makes it feel like you're not 100% sure if he's going to be your last husband.
Well, I didn't want to say, I wanted to definitely differentiate that I've been married twice and that I have 3 kids from 2 different guys, but I didn't want to jump in and make you think that I've been married and divorced twice.
Oh, no,
I didn't want to say I have 3 kids from 2 different guys. I'm married. I'm happy. I just didn't know how to describe it.
No, you were absolutely fine. I'm just being silly. Okay. You have a way you're managing your daughter. And what are the outcomes like? And how long have you been doing it?
So far, we're doing okay. The last 6 to 8 months have been a little rough. When she was diagnosed, her A1C was 11.7. And we've gone from 5'9" to 6'4" to 5'9" to 6'6". And in February, it was 7'8". And I know exactly why. She's growing and it's crazy. Yeah. I think like 6 to 8 months ago, she suddenly needed so much insulin. I was just baffled. We've tripled the insulin use from that. I don't know what's going on with her body. So with that, it's also been kind of sporadic. And so that's kind of where we're at. I know she's doing a little bit better now. And also she started middle school in the fall. And so with that, she's kind of taken the reins a little bit more as far as figuring out what to dose, and which is good because I'm losing it. I need more help. And so that means I need her to step up a little bit. So she's been doing pretty good, but just navigating a lot of the changes and the insulin use at first was freaking me out. You say meet the need. And so we finally met the need, but I didn't feel comfortable increasing it too quickly And so I'm hoping the next appointment, I know it's definitely going to be lower. I hope we're below 7 again.
So am I right to say, well, first let me ask one question. Was there a honeymoon period that looking back you can see?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But again, I don't know, because from what I understand, a honeymoon is at some point you don't need any insulin. Is that correct?
I mean, not necessarily, but it would be, and probably not in most cases. Just like honeymoon would be you're using a certain amount of insulin, then the next day you notice, geez, my body must be helping because that was way too much insulin. And then that goes on for a little bit, or it doesn't, and it goes back and forth. It's kind of like, how do I say this? Like if you were driving your car and you were using the accelerator to move the car forward, but every once in a while, an unseen force in front of you started pulling you ahead faster. And you were like still pushing on the accelerator. You'd be like, oh, now we're going way too fast because the thing's pulling me and I'm accelerating. So you're bolusing and your pancreas is using insulin.
Yeah, I get that. It was pretty, I don't think so, because
you've probably heard me talk about US Med and how simple it is to reorder with US Med using their email system. But did you know that if you don't see the email and you're set up for this, you have to set it up. They don't just randomly call you, but I'm set up to be called if I don't respond to the email because I don't trust myself 100%. So one time I didn't respond to the email and the phone rings at the house. It's like, ring, you know how it works. And I picked it up. I was like, hello. And it was just a recording. It was like, US Med. Doesn't actually sound like that, but you know what I'm saying. It said, hey, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's basically like, hey, your order's ready. You want us to send it? Push this button if you want us to send it. Or if you'd like to wait, I think it lets you put it off like a couple of weeks, or push this button for that. That's pretty much it. I pushed the button to send it, and a few days later, box right at my door. That's it. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your free benefits checked now and get started with US Med. Dexcom, Omnipod, Tandem, Freestyle. They've got all your favorites. Even that new eyelet pump. Check them out now at usmed.com/juicebox or by calling 888-721-1514. There are links in the show notes of your podcast player and links at juiceboxpodcast.com to US Med and to all of the sponsors. If you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes, because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information.
It was pretty consistent for the first while. Now, the last month or two, she's had a couple days where we're on this higher, insulin profile. And there'll be a day where she just is low constantly. So no, I don't think that's honeymoon. It's just weird.
So no honeymoon as far as you can tell. So you're working in the beginning and you're taking care of all the bolusing and everything. And she's also younger. So I would imagine when she was diagnosed at 11, no period yet, right?
Yeah. And still no.
Okay.
So that could be part of this whole thing too.
Yeah. So she's been growing the last couple of years. So you've seen that. And then with the fluctuation, the A1C, like I'm doing the same thing. It's 5.8. I'm doing the same thing. It's 6.4. So there's other needs somewhere that maybe your settings or your style aren't covering. And now probably, if I had to guess, like you're going to see menstruation come at some point here. And maybe then then it's going to turn into a different game too. It's going to probably be, she's almost going to be like she's 2 or 3 different people every month as far as her insulin needs go.
I can't wait.
Oh, it'll be super fun for you. You'll be dead by then. You just run out into traffic and yell, I give up. How old are you again? Tell me. 36?
I'm 36, yeah.
Okay. How old were you when you got married the first time? Were you young?
I was. And that was, looking back, that was the problem. But I was 20 when I married him, but I dated him when I was in high school. So I really didn't date anybody else from the time I was 17 through that. So I was young, yes.
You live in the middle of a field? Why'd you get married when you were 20? Were you pregnant?
Well, let me tell you, because I wasn't pregnant. I guess I liked being in a relationship, but my mom, I love her to death. She got married when she was 17 years old. She graduated high school and got married to my dad. They're still married. So as I was dating him, my first husband, I didn't have anybody saying, I think you should date other people, or you're so young. My mom had lived it. And so she was kind of cheering on the relationship. And so I think a lot of that played into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if she listens to this, I don't want her to feel like it's her fault by any means. But me, I look at what I've been through. And if my kids did that, I would be dying because I don't know.
Yeah, it's how we learn.
I wouldn't be cheering them on.
Yeah, for your mom, that was the family business. Like, that's how we do it. So,
right.
Yeah, look, she found a guy already.
And
yeah, it's good. Right.
And I don't want to go too much into this because.
Sure.
Well, let me just say that. I live in Utah and people around here are Mormon and you don't have sex till you get married, or at least you're not supposed to. And so I think a lot of that too came into play of we were in this relationship. I had dated this guy for so long and my mom just was like, well, why don't you just get married? There's no difference. Because at the time we were living together. And so I think that played into it also.
Are you Mormon, or are you just saying that it kind of rubs off because it's the attitude?
Well, I grew up that way. I'm no longer. But with our family, I think that was part of it too, is I understand. I don't know how to explain it.
No, you explained it. You actually did. Don't worry. There's no more. Okay. I was at the point where you were stretching for words and I thought she can stop talking about this. I got it. So
perfect.
was he in the church, the first husband?
Kind of the same. He's grew up in it, but I started being inactive when I was about 14, 15. And my parents also about the same time quit going also. So yeah, everyone around here is familiar with it. It's hard to explain.
No, it's not. I've heard other people talk about it. Also, I'm huge. I want to say this, and I say this with I'm endeared by it. I'm huge in the Mormon community. My podcast.
I have heard you say that, and yes. I think it's true.
I didn't make it up. I think I just was like, hey, here's a flex I'm gonna make. My podcast is huge with Mormons. We've gone through it a couple of times with different people who are in the church, and I think they're very open and sharing what's working for them with each other. And I think it kind of it just spread
super friendly. There. People care about other people, even if they don't know them. It's a really great place to live.
Yeah. All right. So why did I ask you that? Holy crap. Oh, because I wanted to know how young you were when you started forming that relationship, because I'm wondering if your emotional response right now is rooted back there. So did you have like your first big trauma in your 17, 18, 19, 20 age? And are you maybe stuck there a little bit? Like, because this sucks, but you shouldn't be this run over by it. Like, you know what I mean by that? I'm sure you feel that too, right? Like you feel like you should have a different handle on this.
Yeah, there wasn't really any trauma. I just feel like at diagnosis, he was there the whole time and he comes to all of her appointments. It just doesn't seem like he cares. And I hope he listens to this. I've been begging him to start listening to this podcast because it would do wonders for her to have him on board. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to badmouth him by any means. We get along fine. It's just when I say things aren't great over there, we're talking 300-400 plus range.
And when you say he doesn't care, do you really think he doesn't care?
No, but I think it is. I know it's heavy and it's hard. And I think a lot of times situations like that, he just kind of ignores the problem because it's easier just to pretend it's not happening. And I feel honest in saying that because when she's low, nobody wakes up over there to help her. I am the one calling from my house to wake her up to make sure she's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really frustrating. So I'm so involved in her life and her care. It's hard for me to see her own father not even show like he's trying.
Right.
I don't know.
Is it more that, or is it more that you feel helpless when she's with him?
Both. Because she is taking some of this on her own, but she's still
too young.
She's really reliant on me.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to, give her a little more here and there. I mean, still she can put her on her own Dexcom, but she doesn't. And her pump site, she doesn't do her own. And for a lot of people, that's really weird because most of the time, once you're, a teenager, it's like, I don't want my mom to have to do everything for me, but she kind of does.
Yeah. Arden does her own stuff, obviously, now and has for a number of years, but we did it together for a long time. It wasn't strange here. I also was a stay-at-home dad her whole life, so I don't know that it was as weird for her to pull her pants down and be standing there in her underwear or something like that, while I put something on her hip or something. Back then, she was never in the least bit uncomfortable about it. I also, can I stick up for men for a second?
Go for it. Yes.
Part of that thing that makes us look like we don't care about things, that head down, go forward attitude, it's very valuable in other parts of life. I just want to say.
Well, I agree totally because that's how my husband is.
Right.
He's great and he works hard and he provides and he does so many things, but he doesn't really help manage the diabetes. And a lot of it is because my daughter, that's not really how their relationship is.
Sure.
My daughter doesn't want to go to him to say, hey, stepdad, will you put this pump site on my butt?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Their connection's different. And so I totally get what you're saying because he's very much a put your head down and grind. And he does so much for us. So I don't want to say that he's horrible by any means.
I'll shine it on me for a second, right? I think if you listen to this podcast, you would think of me as a fairly connected, emotionally mature man, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair statement. My wife doesn't think of me that way. She thinks I'm an idiot that puts my head down and goes forward and I don't pay attention to a goddamn thing. I just go. And I'm like, oh, we'll just knock it over, kill it, or go around it. That's the pressure that comes, I don't know, innately, maybe even with being a man. I feel like this is all on me, which is ridiculous because my wife makes a decent living. And we are a 50-50, split here as far as, responsibilities and all that stuff. But I still, if you got me into a quiet room and asked me to answer and said, who's this on? I'd tell you it's on me. And the way that manifests through me is by not giving up, killing what's in front of me, winning, that whole thing. Now, if you went and found my wife and said, hey, who's this on? She'd be like, listen, it's all on me. That guy's a fucking idiot. Okay. And so if I fall apart, we're dead. I don't know what he could accomplish on his own. And so she'll think that, but her response is different. She feels it as stress. Right. And she feels it as pressure and she feels it as a responsibility. And I know all that, but it's not how I feel it. I feel it like a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And now I've had a ton of these conversations where ex-husbands don't do a good job managing their kids' diabetes. And I always think that if you contextualize guys a little bit, I'm generalizing, obviously, but unless you get those more connected men, I guess, or God, I'm trying not to say this in an insulting way because I don't think of it as an insulting way. But how would they have said it 10 years ago? More metrosexual, like a little more blended, with your feelings and things like that. If you've got one of those guys, you'll probably be all right. But they're still guys and they still think, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't learn this and I'm going to screw it up. And if I screw it up, I'm going to hurt her and maybe better I keep my hands off of that. Now, that's not everybody, but I think that's a fairly common response from men. And then you put the divorce in there and it gets a little worse even. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to mess it up because she'll yell at me. And that kind of feeling. That, what I mean? Yeah. Nicole, I'm not saying anything that's crazy.
I
right?
get it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Having said that, he should buck up and fucking do it.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if you don't wake up to your alarms, I know that's a problem for a lot of people. But I just ordered one of those sugar pixel things and set it up in our kitchen to test it out. And that thing is so annoying and so loud. He ought to get one of those so he can wake up in the night when she's at his house and help her. So I don't have to be the one doing it. You know what I mean?
Did you happen to buy that sugar pixel with my link?
I'm sure I did. Because
thank you very much.
a few weeks ago, I was bitching to my husband, like the same thing. I need help. This is so annoying and so hard. And I don't sleep. None of us sleep. So he's like, there's gotta be something. And in my head, I think, there might be. So I hopped on the next day and I just ordered it thinking I'm desperate. I got to get something.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll give it to him.
Well, you know what? For what is it? $99?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe would he use it or would he see it as...
That's the thing is, I don't know.
Yeah. Would he see it as an insult or is he not that? He seems like a decent guy from your explanation.
I think he would see it as an insult, but he is a decent guy. We're different and we think different. And I think, I don't know this, but I think it bothers him when I'm constantly texting them and telling them what to do. And I really try to stay out of their business when she's over there. Like, I'm not talking, if she goes over 150, I'm calling saying, hey, you got to do something. It's okay. You're over 250 and you've been over 250 for 3 hours. Like, come on, guys, this isn't good. Mm-hmm. Or the Dexcom, clearly the readings are looking funny and it's 8, 9, 10 at night and they still haven't changed it. It's like, okay, guys, it's the 2-hour warm up. Don't you want to figure this out before you go to bed? Or, those lows. So that's where it is. It's not just little things.
Is she not in a position to say to him, hey, what are we doing here? Or do you think she likes the break?
I think both. I think she likes the break because it's definitely more fun over there. They do whatever they want and they stay up late and they go out to eat. And they do a lot of things that we don't do in my house. We're definitely more structured. But at the same time, her and I are pretty connected because we do this all day long.
Yeah.
And I think in the back of her mind, she knows, like, we got to do something. But there is something there that she doesn't really want to tell her dad what to do or bring it up, or she may be nervous to say something. I definitely see both of those things.
Have you tried having this conversation with her to see if she can help move it along over there?
At first, I would contact your dad when she was over there and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Now I just text her directly and say, hey, give yourself a couple units, or I'll tell her or ask her, are you guys planning to change your Dexcom tonight? Or,
That shit's right out of the boy playbook. That was good. That's well done by him. He just ignored you till you left him alone about it.
Well,
no, we do that. Just so you
after
know.
so long of nothing happening, and honestly, it's got to the point where he just ignores a lot of the things I say. So I just go to her directly.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because I once said to another woman in my life, was like, that's a lot of demands from a lady who doesn't have sex with me.
Well, and if I put myself in his shoes, honestly, he has a new wife and a stepson, and here's the ex-wife always hounding in, telling him what to do. I get it.
Yeah.
It's just, I just wish they'd try a little harder. And I don't know that they know any better.
Oh, okay. So that's a good question. Like, and by the way, I want to say, I'm not discounting that. Like, he's also hearing from his wife about the things they need to do together. And then suddenly he's probably got pressure to be like listening to her, and he's only got so many hours in the day. But the thing about not wanting to understand the diabetes, that's the part you're never going to explain to me, because it doesn't take that much to figure out, especially in this situation. And he could easily do it. The three of you could easily be in a text chain, right? And you wouldn't think it would take many experiences for him to realize what he should be doing. So if he won't take the time to realize it, that's one thing. If he understands it and he won't do it, that's another thing. So which is it? Or is it all?
I think it's a combination of all of it. He is like, I don't know if you were recording when we said this, but when she goes over there, she doesn't die. She's alive, but it's just like not healthy.
Right. Yeah. High blood sugar.
He's just kind of doing what the doctor taught him. That's all he knows is what the doctor taught him is you dose for carbs. And yes.
So in fairness, Nicole, does he think that you're doing some hocus pocus thing from a podcast and he's following the doctor?
I wish I knew. I wish he would just tell me because I've sent him specific episodes like the tug of war. That's genius. It just makes so much sense. And it's a small, short episode. I'm like, just listen to this because it's the insulin timing or bump and nudge or, just even the fact, like if he could hear what you've done with Arden and insulin timing, understanding insulin, it's not that hard. I don't even remember what you asked me.
I wondered if there's a world in which he thinks he's doing the right thing and you're doing something crazy you learned on the internet.
Oh, yeah. It could be. And like I said, if he would just say that, then that's one thing. But I feel like I'm just being ignored. Also,
you could come off as, and I don't mean this in the way that everyone listening is going to take it, but I feel like I have a good vibe with you, Nicole, so I could say this. I feel like it's possible you come off a little crazy to him.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay. Because I've been in your position, so I know how it can look from the other side. Like I told that story about like going into Arden's elementary school before she started kindergarten. Like I went in like 6 months before she was there to start explaining diabetes to them. And they 1,000,000% looked at me like I was out of my mind.
Okay, well, let me say this. Mm-hmm. I am forever grateful that I found your show. But sometimes I wonder if I didn't find your show, would I be this crazy? Probably not. Because seeing the spikes go up and down, I wouldn't know any better. Finding your show, I know there's a better way. And I know that way is honestly not that hard.
Right. Yeah, I've been making ladies crazy since I was younger, even. If you ask Kelly, everything that's wrong with her is my fault. So I think there's that. No, I take your point. Like, you can bury your head in the nice way to say this is, right, you can stick your head in the sand and then you just don't know. And that's maybe what he's doing to some degree. I think that's what most people are doing to some degree. Because
and she doesn't go over there often. I mean, we're talking every other weekend and every once in a while they go to dinner. So it's not a ton.
Yeah. Like it's fun to blame me. And I don't mean blame in that way. But you can't tell me that people who have never heard this podcast don't see a 300 blood sugar, test for it, see it for 3 hours in a row and don't think, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like there has to be some degree of blissful, willful ignorance involved at some point. Like maybe not on day one or something, but I mean, a couple of years into it, you got to start asking yourself some tough questions. And if you're not asking those questions, are you not asking them on purpose?
Yep. I think that's what it is. I really do. I think sometimes if hard things come up, like I said, it's just easier to turn the other cheek and just not pay attention.
Duck, dodge, dive.
And the crazy ex-wife is there to wake her up in the middle of the night. So
yeah,
he knows I'm always watching.
Nicole, I'm definitely calling your episode. What is that? Duck, dodge. What is that from that movie? Hold on a second.
Don't ask me. My brain is fried.
What do you do to relax?
I don't know. Garden?
All right, hold on a second. It's dodge, duck, dip, dive. And it's from the movie Dodgeball. The 5 Ds.
Okay. We're going to have to watch that.
All right.
I've seen it, but I'm going to have to watch it.
All right. So the 5 Ds, I'm either going to call your episode the 5 Ds or I'm going to call it dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. That might be it.
And I'm the crazy person chucking the ball, the ex-husband or what?
No, that's your husband avoiding diabetes. Your ex-husband avoiding diabetes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because my other option was crazy ex-wife, and I don't think that the ladies would treat me well if I call it that. So
I don't want to be the crazy ex-wife.
You're also not crazy. You're in a very unique and difficult situation. So going all the way back.
It's a unique spot. And I knew that's kind of why I wanted to come on the show is because there's very few people that understand what I'm going through. And those people listen to your show.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're a hell of a group over here. stuff. People just inundated. But now so first of all, you garden to relax?
I don't know. I just was trying to think of something because I honestly don't do much for myself. So that is something that I enjoy. But to relax,
yeah,
I don't know. I like my coffee in the morning and...
No, that's not what we're talking about, Nicole. I'm talking about like weed or whacking it or something like that. Like, what are you really doing to like lose some stress? You know what I mean?
I don't know. That's something I got to figure out.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that stuff is free, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I also have little kids at home. So maybe once my youngest gets in school and I have a little bit more time to focus on myself, I think I need a hobby. I got to find something.
No weed? You wouldn't do the weed?
I wouldn't say no to it. Okay. I mean, it's obviously illegal here and in my community, not really looked upon. Now, I know if I wanted some, I know I could get it right away. I don't know. I don't really want to smoke anything. I'd love like maybe a gummy or something, but I've never tried that. That might be my thing, Scott.
This is the thing you've considered.
I've definitely considered it because I love like a glass or two of wine, not necessarily the wine, but how it makes me feel. So that's definitely a chill out for sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, no, I'm being funny, but like there's got to be something that you can put people are like, do you think you're really being funny? Because I guarantee if my son was listening to this, he'd be like, you're not funny the way you think you are. But I'm just trying to be like lighthearted and say like, you got to find something that just like takes it away for a little bit. And I don't want you to turn into like a day drinker. So,
right.
Yeah, like
you're preaching to the choir. Like I know I'm definitely missing something and it's something I got to figure out for sure.
The idea of like, I don't not understand the idea of like, well, when this one gets older or when this happens or something like that, but that's the quick way to being 45 and having like, angina. So like,
I know. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I enjoy, but oftentimes if I do leave, then I'm always thinking about the kids back at home. Like I love to travel and I love to hike and ski. And I mean, where we live, there's so many great outdoor activities and things, but it's just breaking away in my mind mentally to be like, okay, the kids are okay. Like you can go have fun. The
problem is trying to get lost in one of those things. Like it's not really it's not the thing you're doing. It's the ability to lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
That's why people go to things where you can't stop, but to lose yourself in it. Like that kind of an idea. Right. So like,
my daughter does play volleyball, my oldest, the diabetic. And so we travel all over the place and that's become a good thing for me because I do kind of lose myself in it and I'm there to help her. And is it something I would just do for fun? No, but I mean, I really do enjoy it. So I think right now that would be one of the things that is good for me to escape.
Is there a way to build a support system around yourself so much so that you could take a weekend or an overnight trip?
Oh yeah. I mean, and we have before. I've left.
Who's we? You taking your husband with you? I meant by
me and my husband.
I meant by yourself. I meant by yourself.
Oh, by myself?
Yeah,
like, I could, but I don't know if I'd want it. I don't love being by myself. I don't know if I'd want to do something like that.
No.
But yeah.
I equally enjoy being with people and being by myself. Like I can see the value in both of those things. Like I like solitude and I like to be able to like disappear into my own head and do things. And I very much like to be around people and talk. And it's funny because I have a son and a wife who are not as into chatting, and then Arden who talks all the time, like more like me. And so like I don't have as much opportunity. Like I have 3 people around me, but 2 of them are kind of like, oh, he's talking. You know what I mean? Or, then they'll say things like, I don't understand how people listen to your podcast. And I'm like, a lot of people really like it. And I'm like, you guys are obviously not one of them. Like I said to my wife the other day, like, have you ever heard the podcast? She's like, no.
That's crazy to me, but whatever.
She's like, I've heard enough of you.
That's funny.
I imagine. But yeah, like once or twice I've been like, hey, listen to this for this like thing. She would just not. Like I was telling her about something I did with Erica the other day. And I actually said to her, I'm like, I think you'd be proud of me. Like, I think there's a version of me you don't even know that you'd hear if you listen to this episode. And she's like, I am not doing that.
That's funny.
But anyway, like I like the idea of you. I mean, if you don't like being alone, fair is fair, right? But I was counting on not the new husband, but your husband to take care of the kids so that you could feel truly comfortable and let it go.
Oh yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, but why not do that then? Explain to me, Nicole, why that hasn't happened. It's because you have self-identified as either crazy or overwhelmed 10 times since we've been talking.
Both.
So why don't you do something to alleviate that?
I think it's just finding what it is that I want. Just leaving and being alone, that doesn't sound like any fun to me.
Why? What would happen?
I think I'd just be bored. Like, I just don't really like being alone.
But I'm going to paint you a picture.
Okay, go for it.
All right, you head off to a little, a hotel. A hotel that has like a walking trail, a little hiking trail too. You go, you unpack, you go for a hike, you come back, you take a shower, you go down to the spa, you have a sit in the hot, and then they give you a little rub. Maybe you get your nails done, and you go sit and have a nice dinner. You put your headphones on, you listen to some music while you sit at dinner, or you read something by yourself. You eat slowly, and then you go out again and take a nice nighttime stroll. You go to bed early, and then you wake up in the morning and you take a nice shower. You head out for a breakfast, and then you head back home. Like, how would that not be nice?
That would be good. That would be nice.
Yeah. Do that then.
Okay. Maybe I should try it.
Do it. I mean, what the hell? Do I have to set this up for you? I mean, I'm not paying for it.
Our life's pretty crazy.
Your life's pretty what?
We're just busy. And I hate to even say that because everybody's busy, but yeah, I can do that. I could take a night and do that.
Do you think you're more busy than I am?
I don't know.
It's interesting when you think about other people's lives, isn't it? Like, and you wonder,
and that's why I hate to say that. It's because, and I hate to complain about diabetes, and I really don't, because I know everybody has their thing, This is just mine.
I have a list of things in front of me on my giant whiteboard that I'm considering doing for the podcast. And one of the things I'm considering doing is short episodes where I just let people come on and just bitch for 20 minutes.
That would be pretty entertaining.
I think
you should try a few.
Yeah, no, I might. That's one of my ideas. I can't tell you the rest of them because I know you people are listening and you'll rip me off. I actually saw someone rip me off the other day and I was like, oh, it's so blatant. And then I went and checked their stats and nobody listens to their thing. And I was like, ha. But anyway, that sounded so, how did that sound? Small? Whatever. Okay. So we could give you like a day, like just 24 hours, I think is a big deal. I think it's restorative. And you come home, you're relaxed. You hear some stories about how things went well. You leave absolute direction with the husband and the kids. You go, look, do not call me. If you do not text me, nothing. I am going to assume everything is perfect. And if it's not, you better figure it out for yourself. Like that thing. You know what I mean? Like, please. Does your husband know where you're at?
Yes, very much. Because I'm pretty vocal about it, especially when my daughter's gone and we see these crazy numbers, or he hears the alarms on my phone and he's like, oh, is she high or what, or low? Is
he helpful? Like with you and how you feel? Like, has he said anything useful or valuable or anything?
He says he's willing to help, but I just think it takes too much time to be where I'm at. And I look at it this way too. She's 13, almost 14. She's going to be out of the house sooner than later.
You mean and 5 so years it's like, from now? 5?
Well, okay. Well, let me just say, if this happened, if she was diagnosed, I don't even know, younger, I would be going to the court system and getting something set up to change the divorce decree for the visitation and things, just to say, if he can't show that he can manage her diabetes in a healthy way, she can't stay overnight, things like that. Because of her age, I don't know if it's worth. He's really busy. He has multiple companies and he's always working. And my current husband. Your current husband, okay. And he's just kind of overwhelmed with working, and he's the provider. He does so much for us. And so to have him, take a step back and to help me, I don't see it.
I mean, I only meant like, has he ever said to you, hey, Nicole, maybe you should try this or that? Or seriously, like just an idea? Has he ever just said like, hey, let's play Jenga tonight? Or like,
no. He just states the obvious. He just says,
you should chill out.
Talking about my ex, he just says he's got to find a way to figure that out. Or with my daughter, she's got to find a way to wake up on her own. And it's like, duh, like I get that. Yeah, I wish.
Find a way to wake up on your own. Yeah. When you're 13, that ain't happening. Okay, so boys. Yeah, they're always the problem in some way or another. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm one. I know I'm not that helpful in my own life. And I try really hard to be, but it's taken me decades to figure it out. Like I'm being serious. Like it's easy for me to philosophize and talk about it, but then like putting it into practice is always challenging. Would you consider yourself anxious?
Oh, yes. That's the other thing is I should be medicated. I really need to.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. It's the way you said
it. I have been on and off of prescription for a lot of my life. I am not on it right now. I know it would help. So that's probably step one. I got to do that again.
Just for anxiety or for depression, or what are we talking about?
I think it's an antidepressant, but it helps with my anxiety. I don't know it just kind of gives me an extra couple seconds to breathe before I react. I think it would help me clear my thoughts a little bit. It's hard to explain, but I've been on and off of it for, half of my life.
Let me ask you, is what you're saying, is that like, that adrenaline doesn't hit you right away, so you don't freak out before you can actually think?
Yeah. Like I'm not a real angry person. Like I'm probably the opposite, but road rage. There'll be times like if somebody does something stupid, I'm like, what an idiot. If I'm on my medicine, I just don't even think about it.
I love complaining in the car. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't get actually upset, but I love to complain about it. I think we all do. I think we all love pointing out what other people are doing wrong. And the car's the best place to do it because they can't see you or hear you.
They can't hear you.
Yeah. No one knows you're being insane. Like, so you're just like, why would they change lanes right there? Why? Explain to me why. And then you just let it go. But you're actually upset when it's over.
Yeah. Or like I revisit it in my mind multiple times. Like, that was so annoying. They're so dumb. Or if I do something dumb, why do I can't just let it go.
Later in the day, you'll be like, why did they change lanes like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, yeah, maybe.
Or if I do something stupid, then I'm like, oh, man, that was so dumb of me. And I'll revisit it. Like
you'll beat yourself up?
Yeah.
I have never thought about anything I've done wrong after it's over. I mean, the big stuff, yes, but not little things. I would never treat myself that way. Because that's how I would see it. I would see it as treating myself poorly. Also, making mistakes is just part of being alive. Like, I think of it as practice or as an experience. I don't think of it as a failure or anything. I mean, if I hit someone with my car and buried their body, I would think of it as a failure. But if I just did something or had a weird thought or, did something, so I don't look back on it and beat myself up. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that a diagnosed thing through a doctor?
No, I do think it's something. I'm just not one to go to the doctor and to spend the time to do stuff like that. I've heard you talk about ADHD, right. And could I have it? Maybe. But it's like, is it self-diagnosed or not? I just think it's just this constant overwhelm. And my brain is just so full of so much stuff and there's so many moving parts. And it's just, I think being on the medicine would be good for me just to chill out a little bit. And it doesn't make me like a bump on a log, but I got to get back on it.
It dulls you a little bit and you don't like that? That's what I hear people say. You feel dull?
Yeah, it can. Honestly, I've been on and off of it. I tried not to be on it when I've been pregnant. And so.
Who are you getting to give you the prescription?
Usually I get it from my OB.
Really?
Yeah.
He's the dealer.
But I don't really see another doctor. Like That's kind of my doctor.
I got one doctor. You understand?
I do. It's the truth.
I make sure the hooch is okay and nothing else I care about. Now, like, wait, and what's she giving you, like Zoloft or something like that?
This is called
Wellbutrin.
Citalopram.
Yeah, Lexapro, citalopram. I got it. My wife worked on that drug right out of college.
My sister's on it. My mom's on it. My dad's on it. Like,
oh,
there's certainly things in my family. Like, yeah, I need to be on it.
You are. Can I say something lovely about you?
Please.
Yeah. You're like, I wish someone would. I'm going to right now, Nicole. You're walking on both sides of that line. Like, usually when I talk to somebody who's really anxious, there's a frenetic value to them that you don't have. Like, you almost look like a person who's not anxious describing their twin who's anxious. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in a way. I think I'm just so used to it.
It's interesting. It feels like you manage it well without managing it.
Well, that's been my goal, honestly, is I didn't want to be on something forever my whole life. So I have been in therapy and I have done things. So I have been trying actively to just be off of it and live and try to stay pretty steady. And I think I've done a decent job, but this diagnosis in the last couple of years has just thrown me. And I probably ought to try it again.
Does your daughter have any of this? Is there any concern this is going to land on her?
Oh my gosh, she is so anxious.
Oh.
And yeah, I just don't know. We've tried therapy. She's just not really, like, we'd go and she'd just sit there and not talk. Yeah, there's a lot I could say about that.
Mm.
She struggles for sure.
I'm not in therapy, but I would love it.
You would.
Well, because the conversations I get to have every day, I have to be worried about, like, if other people are enjoying them and if they're answering other people's questions. But I think I would thrive in an environment where you were like, just tell me about you for an hour. I'd be like, oh my God, finally. And I know people are like, buddy, I think that's what the podcast is. But I would love that. Oh my gosh. But I don't know if there's any value. I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there would be plenty of value. But also, I do those episodes with Erica, which she would be quick to point out she's not my therapist, but I find them very helpful, actually.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
I bet. Well, and you get to talk to a lot of people. Like, that seems almost therapy in itself, I would think. But maybe since it's work for you, it doesn't seem that way.
Even talking to you about this, I know there's value for me in this.
Oh, there's huge value for me. I mean, connection it's important. I think it's therapeutic.
What I'm saying is I think I get something out of this conversation, and whatever I think I'm getting out of it, I imagine other people are getting out of it as well. Like, that's kind of how I approach it. I don't know. Like, and when I sit down here, I always, like, when I talk about things, I always talk about things from a perspective of, like, I think this is something people listening to a diabetes podcast would want to know about. Like, I don't, like, talk about some of my other thoughts that are outside of this space. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've never really, like, sat down and really discussed what I thought AI is going to do for the world. Or, like, you know what I mean? Or this crazy woman that I saw outside of a pet store recently, and how it's possible that I believe that her reaction to an everyday situation might be the reason why we won't move forward as a species. Like, I don't get to have those conversations here, but I have those thoughts. I just don't think people would care.
Oh, that's funny.
Can I tell you this one? We're kind of at the end. Let's make sure that I've covered everything you want, and then I'll tell you this weird story. So is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about?
Not really. I mean, I have my notes in front of me.
What's
talking about how. Oh yeah, I have notes. Ugh.
Tell me about them. What didn't we talk about?
Well, I just had notes about growing up, seeing my grandma always, give herself shots before eating, and my aunt's having pumps. So, like, it's been in the family, and I've seen it. And my daughter, when she was diagnosed, was in DKA, and it's just like, you'd think that I would have known better, but I didn't grow up with it in my home. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the answer there is I didn't have a mom or anyone in my home like that. It was just my grandma and a few times a year. But still, I don't beat myself up about it. But in my head, I'm like, why didn't I see something sooner? That's one of my notes.
That's just you beating yourself up about something.
That's just me being a parent going, how could it get so bad? I mean, she had to be life flighted. Like, it was a really bad situation. I just wish I could have caught it sooner.
I understand you wish that, but Nicole, you've heard enough people talk to realize that there probably was no way for it to occur to you, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Are you more pissed at your anxiety? Because for all the things it makes you think about, how did it not help you with this?
Well, when it happened, it was me. Like, this was all going on and nobody was like, you should take her to the hospital. You should have her checked out. Everyone was saying, oh, she'll be fine, or call the doctor in the morning. And it was me that was like, no, like something's really wrong. I got to take her. And so I'm glad I did that at that point. But I don't know. Is that anxiety?
Oh, of course it is. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of anxiety. It's when you get too much of it. Anxiety is that thing that makes you pay attention to stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good thing I paid attention, because who knows what would have happened.
Oh, no, it's great. I was joking almost, saying, isn't it absolutely shitty that the anxiety makes you think about so many things, but it didn't help you enough with this one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Like, it probably did help me in some regard, because if I couldn't kick it, I would have gone to bed that night and woke up in the morning, and who knows what the situation was. The anxiety is what made me take her to the ER.
So then the question is, why don't you give yourself credit for that instead of feeling badly about it?
Well, I'm trying. I just think, it needs to calm down a little bit.
The trying angle baffles my little brain. Watch this. I'm giving you credit for it. Accept that and move on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to move on.
Never think about it again. You saved your daughter's life.
I did.
Yeah, but you didn't ignore it until it was in a bad situation. You didn't know about it. And as soon as you knew she was in a bad situation, you followed your instincts and you saved her life, probably. Because if she had to be life flighted at that situation, then you're right, overnight might have done her in. She could have died in her sleep from DKA, right?
Right.
Why are we not celebrating what you've done?
Good question. Here's the tears again.
Oh, don't cry. Oh, we're good. Cry. Feel good about it. Like, there's that very, what does it make me think of? I've been talking a lot about women applying for jobs in our house recently, because my wife just switched jobs and it brings up the topic. My son's looking for work, etc. And there's that stat that says that men will apply for jobs they know they're not qualified for, but women won't apply for jobs they know they're overqualified for.
Yes.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. There's almost nothing you could say to me, hey, Scott, can you do this? That I wouldn't go, yeah, I'll figure it out. You know, I wrote a book.
Yes, I do. And I'd like to find it. Yeah, I would really like to read it.
You can get like a digitally, no problem. But that's not but the point is this. A publisher got on the phone with me and said, hey, you want to write a book? And I said, yes. And they said, well, great. We want you to write a book about diabetes. This is a long time ago. And I said, I don't want to write a book about diabetes. I want to write a book about being a stay-at-home parent. And they were like, give us an outline. So I gave them an outline, and then we got back on a call and I went over the outline, and they said, that's great. We're going to pay you, oh God, what was it back then? I paid $5,000 to turn in a manuscript. So I worked for 6 months for $5,000. So if anybody thinks like I made a bunch of money, and I got all done, and I called my wife at work and I said, I'm going to write a book. And she's like, can you write a book? And I said, I don't know. And then I said,
I've heard you talk about this.
I said, if I can, I'll just give them the money back. And my wife was like, okay. Chuckles. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she never would have done that. But my wife's a fantastic technical writer. But she would have been like, I don't know how to write a book. And I was like, I don't know how to write a book, but sure, I'll do it. Like, and so my point here is that you did this thing, just accept it and celebrate it and keep going. Like, why are you beating yourself up about something that you didn't know anything about when you still didn't know anything about it, but you followed your instincts and you decided to do something, and it ended up being monumental for your daughter's life. But when you described it to me, you described it as a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just my personality, I guess. I don't like to boast.
Boast.
Or,
boast. That's not boasting. That's
I
saying that's
know.
just the facts, lady. That's what you did.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn right. I would celebrate much less than that. I once built an enclosure for my chameleon by myself, and I acted like I resurrected the Empire State Building. I was like, look what I did. My wife's like, it's a box. And I'm like, I know, but I did it.
Yeah.
So anyway. All right, you want me to tell you this story about the lady who's going to hold back the world?
Sure.
All right. I was coming out of a pet store and I saw a Tesla owner use something called the summon feature to have their car pull itself out of its parking spot, move through the parking lot, and come up to the front of the building and park in front of them. And then they went and got into the car. So I don't know if everybody knows that that's a thing, but you can apparently pull out an app on your phone, make sure the app knows where you're standing, and then hold down a button. Because I watched the person do this. I was asking questions and watching them do it at the same time. They held down the button. The car lights came on. I watched the mirrors unfold. The car assessed the situation, pulled out, turned right, moved up, came to a stop, made a left turn, pulled up in front of the person. I was like, holy hell, that was amazing. Right. And it was later at night. I want to be clear. It was like 5 of 9. The place was closing. There was 4 or 5 cars in the lot. Not that any of this matters. But one lady who was in her car, and her exiting her car and walking towards the store coincided with the car pulling out and driving itself up. So she's nowhere near the car. I want to be clear about that. She's probably 20 feet to the right of where the car is actually driving. The car pulls up, it makes the turn, it stops in front of the person. The person walks over to get into the car. And that is the first time that the lady is aware of the car at all. Like, it's just, prior to that, it was just a car that was driving. She paid no attention to it at all. But when she saw the person get into the driver's seat, you could see her face change as if to say, oh, how did that car get up here? And as the person's getting into their car, she turns to them and says, that was scary. Nothing else, just that was scary. Lady was in her late 50s, early 60s. She looked like a regular person to me. You know, she got out of a car that indicated to me you would have to have a job to own it, like that kind of thing. And the person said, excuse me? And she said, that was scary. And the person said, oh, I'm sorry. The car does that. It can, you can bring it to where you're at within a certain distance. And then the person offered up, I had to hold my finger on this button the whole time it was driving. If at any point I thought anything was going wrong, I could have taken my hand off the car, immediately would have stopped. I'm sorry, you were scared. And do you know what she said?
What did she say?
That was scary. And now I'm tallying on my fingers from a distance how many times this lady is repeating that was scary. She was up to 3 at this point. That person looked a little confused, got into the car to leave. And while they were getting into the car, the woman walked to the passenger side window and bent down as if to want to talk to the person more. They put their window down, and she said, and I'm not kidding you, Nicole, that was scary. And then the person says, now I'm listening. And then I was listening the whole time. It was goddamn fascinating. Okay. And so now the person says to them, there are millions of these cars on the road. This is probably happening around you all the time. You did not even notice this until I went to get into the car. What was scary? And then she didn't answer. And there was just this frozen moment. And all I could think was, oh my God, is this the level of acceptance that lives in some people's minds? How are we ever going to move forward? Like, she didn't say, oh my God, that was amazing. It's what I thought when I saw it. I was like, oh my God,
yeah,
that's amazing. She didn't think it was amazing. She didn't think it was different. She wasn't piqued. Her interest wasn't there to ask questions. She just was scared. But I don't think she was really scared. How could she be scared? The car wasn't moving when she realized what happened. And so she gets a little combative finally and says, I was next to that while it was happening. And the person says, well, you were pretty far away because I was watching, but you were completely safe. That was scary, she says again. And he goes, there are millions of cars on the road that have this. As a matter of fact, he goes, while you're driving on the highway, it's very possible that many cars around you are being driven by a computer and not by the person sitting in the driver's seat. And I'm talking about, and he, like, the person, I shouldn't say he, but the guy starts to get a little like animated and says, it is controlling the braking, the steering, the accelerating, the changing of lanes. There are millions of cars on the road that literally drive themselves and you have no idea. And I think he was trying to be comforting to her.
Yeah.
And she goes, and I swear to God, Nicole, she says, that was scary. And I'm like, is this woman a moron? Like, that's what I started thinking. Like, I was like, maybe she's a big dummy. You know what I mean? But I couldn't tell. Is she stupid or is she just that overwhelmed by what she saw? The person
you should have taken her for a test drive and she'd have had a heart attack.
I'll tell you right now, I don't know what would have happened if she got in that car because I think she wanted to murder him. He says, after the last that was scary, he says, call your congressman. And she goes, what's that supposed to mean? And I am like, well, if I was younger, I would have been videotaping this because this is what the kids do when they see shit like this. But I was just watching. I was just an onlooker. And he goes, call your congressman. If there are laws you don't like, these cars are legal. If it's a law you don't like, you should call your congressman and see if there's something you can't do about it. And then she just stared at him and he wished her good evening and drove away. And then I acted like I wasn't watching. But I thought about that for an hour afterwards. I came home. The reason I can retell it to you now is I told my wife, and my son came home. I told my son, because all I could think was, if that's people's level of acceptance or understanding or ability to like move and change, no wonder we can't change very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
my
sad.
God, if she didn't say that was scary 10 times, but after being like given, like being spoken to, offered up reasons, like comfort, and never could articulate a conversation back, only to get mad when he said, call your congressman. She didn't understand what that meant, and that made her angrier. And that's all I saw as a modulation of thinking from her in this. I mean, what probably was just a minute and a half. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't a long conversation. Anyway, like, that's the kind of stuff I think about that I would actually talk about on a podcast if my podcast wasn't about diabetes. I would spend hours discussing that minute and a half that I witnessed.
Well, maybe once you have all of this with AI, you can do a spinoff. You can do another podcast of what's in Scott's brain.
Oh my God, there's so many weird things in here. But no, I can't because I also have all my other ideas on my whiteboard. And some of them I'm really excited about, actually.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what comes out.
Anyway, you're very nice to listen to my long story. And
one more thing I have to say.
Go ahead.
You really need to go to Canada.
What is wrong? You're not in Canada. Why are you pushing me into Canada?
I'm not.
You trying to get rid of me?
I've been to Canada. No. I just think it's funny how you talk about Canada or even Alaska, and I know you're doing it in good fun, but Canada is beautiful and you would really like it. And you may spot a moose and you may, I don't know, you got to go to Canada, go see Banff, go see Lake Louise.
How would I be able to say, don't you own a penguin to people where there are no penguins if I went to Canada?
I don't know. I just think you gotta try it.
Don't you just live on a salt flat with a big rock pile in the middle of it?
Yes, and everyone's in a pioneer dress and has one husband and lots of wives. And what else about Utah? We eat Jell-O all the time.
Oh, yeah. What kind of Jell-O? Sugar-free or sugar?
Yeah, that's funny because growing up, every family party in this diabetic family, there was always one regular rainbow Jell-O and a sugar-free rainbow Jell-O because we had so many diabetics in the family.
Wait a minute, is Jell-O a Mormon thing?
I don't know. Maybe it's a Utah thing. And maybe I'm just off my rocker, but it seems like it's always been a joke that there's always Jell-O at a Mormon something.
Well, they say there's always room for Jell-O.
I didn't know that.
I think is that not the tagline? Hold on
and
a
maybe
second.
It's a generational thing because I feel like with both of my grandmas, if we had a nice fancy meal, there was always Jell-O. I haven't made Jell-O ever. So
I just Googled there's always room for, and the first thing in Google is Jell-O.
Okay.
Oh, it's a black and white ad. How fucking old am I exactly? Jesus Christ, this is upsetting. Give me a second. Ready?
Yep.
Hold on. Let's find this video here. This is a retrospectacle. There's always room for Jell-O. It's actually oh, was yours in a Jell-O mold? Like a salad? Like a Jell-O salad?
Oh, like a bundt pan.
Yeah, that's what they're
Rainbow.
showing right now. It says a sensation for salads, imitation apple flavor on the packages. There was apple Jell-O. Now it's more like green apple, right? Oh, and you could cube it up and put it together like in a wine glass. Look how sexy this is. Oh my God, the woman's mixer is a hand mixer. It's the one where you hold it and you turn the dial on the side of it to like make it spin. Oh, and this kid that they put in the, he's not attractive, the child. Hold on a second. They must have just took the first baby they found. Well, this goes back into like, all right, I can't watch this. Apparently there's more history about Jell-O than I knew.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I just Googled Mormons in Jell-O and
Nothing?
yeah.
Something?
Oh, there is. I don't need to take the time to read about all this. There's some stuff about Jell-O. Man.
All right. Everybody get involved in that. Maybe Jerry Seinfeld will make a Jell-O movie next now that he's done a Pop-Tart film.
Oh, dear.
I was like, a Pop-Tart movie. What am I going to do with that? All right. Have we done it? Are we good?
We've done it. We're good.
All right.
Thank you. I really appreciate the show.
No, it's my pleasure. And I'm so happy the podcast is valuable for you. It's really touching. And I don't know another way to say it. I'm just really thrilled that you enjoy it and that it's helpful for you. I don't know how you motivate somebody to learn about something that they don't want to learn about, but I would think, like after listening to your whole conversation, I would think that if you had a conversation with your daughter and said, look, I'd love it if we could do some of the things when you're not with me that we do when we are, these 300 blood sugars, you can't feel good when that's happening. I want you to feel good. I want you to be able to enjoy the time that you're spending with your dad and that kind of stuff. Here are some simple little things we could do that would help you, and then just kind of reinforce those things and be a teammate. Don't be a coach, and that over time, maybe she'll, incorporate those into her thinking, and then they'll just happen automatically. You won't need somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to figure out how to, sometimes they go out to dinner at like 9, 10 at night. That's just crazy to me.
Wow.
So one of those things will have to be figure out how to dose correctly when you go out to eat that late.
Yeah. And then you
That's
go home
something
and
we got to work on, because I've tried the other thing of telling the dad, you're not with her very often. Maybe when she's with you on these days, like try to be done eating at like 7.
Do the things we know. Do the things we know work, maybe.
Or go out to eat somewhere where is like, or just cook at home. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's so many things that I have done to help her, and it just seems like over there it's whatever's convenient for them.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyways, yeah, great.
Okay. All right. Hold on 1 second for me. You were terrific. Thank you very much. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast was sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today with US Med. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. The episode you just enjoyed was sponsored by Medtronic Diabetes. Learn more about hyperglycemia and what you can do about it at medtronicdiabetes.com/hyper. Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate your loyalty and listenership. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If you or a loved one was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and you're looking for some fresh perspective, the Bold Beginnings series from the Juicebox Podcast is a terrific place to start. That series is with myself and Jenny Smith. Jenny is a CDCES, a registered dietitian, and a type 1 for over 35 years. And in the Bold Beginnings series, Jenny and I are going to answer the questions that most people have after a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. The series begins at episode 698 in your podcast player, or you can go to juiceboxpodcast.com and click on Bold Beginnings in the menu. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording, wrongwayrecording.com.